As the road progresses north, a number of dry creeks are crossed, nearly always lined with healthy trees. To the east lay salt lakes. To the west is the Barrier Range. In the 1980s, it was a strange road system. You'd be driving on dirt for many kilometres. Then suddenly it became a sealed surface. Then, 10 to 20 kilometres further on, you're back on dirt. This pattern repeats all the way to Tibooburra. The sealed sections are made up of experimental compounds, laid down to discover how the surface holds up to weather and traffic. I was driving a Ford Cortina, which was more suited to the English roads than the dirt tracks I planned to drive on. In the northern section of the Silver City Highway lies the town of Milparinka. Situated near the often dry Evelyn Creek, the town was first settled in 1886, nearly 40 years after the Charles Sturt expedition passed this way. Apart from the still licensed Albert Hotel, only a few ruins remain of the town that once boasted a population of around 3,000 people. My vehicle was already looking out of place in this environment of four-wheel drive vehicles. Gold was discovered in the 1870s. Prospectors flocked to the area by any means possible, including Cobb & Co coaches that did a run from Wilkinia to Milparinka 3 times a week. The Milparinka courthouse was built of local sandstone in 1886. Towards the end of the 1920s, the courtroom had heard its last case, and the police station closed its doors in 1930. At the end of the street are the ruins where the Baker family once lived and worked. Gold prospectors that didn't strike it rich sometimes turned to supplying the miners with goods. The Baker family recognised this opportunity and in 1890 opened a store. Although the diggings were largely abandoned by 1893, the store operated until the 1920s. In 1861, the surrounding land around Milparinka came under the Crown Lands Occupation Act, which allowed for the land to be stocked with sheep at a carrying capacity of only 1 animal per 8 acres. Duncan McBride first leased the Mount Poole property in 1872. He remained there running sheep until 1883. By 1908, the property occupied an area of approximately 700 square kilometres and was owned by the cattle baron Sidney Kidman. Following an intense drought in 1929, the homestead was abandoned, and over the years it has fallen into ruins.
This waterhole here probably looks similar to any other waterhole that you find out in the outback, but this particular one has a special interest. This is where Depot Glen is situated, about just over 12 kilometres away from Milparinka. It was at this waterhole that Sturt was stuck for 6 months, waiting for the rains to come in from the north.
A few kilometres to the east is the lonely grave of James Poole, Sturt's second in command, who died of scurvy on July 16, 1845. His body is buried close to this beefwood tree that has his initials and the year 1845 blazed into the trunk. The gravel track became a rocky track. My progress was slow and I had to engage four-wheel drive as I edged my car around a number of fair-sized boulders that lay on the track, until I was 3/4 up the hill, but could travel no further. I got out and walked to the ridge. From the top of the hill, looking back the way I'd driven, the track could hardly be made out, and the landscape was barren to the horizon. During their encampment at Depot Glen, Sturt decided to relieve the boredom of their long stay in the area, and ordered that a cairn should be built on the nearby hill, which he later named Mount Poole. Well, I've been up here and I've looked for this pile of stones that they built here to relieve the boredom. I can't find it anywhere. My car is just over the ridge, over there, somewhere. Although this journey in 1992 went without any car problems, that situation wasn't the case on my first visit to this area in 1987. Already I was discovering that my vehicle wasn't suited to the harsh conditions of the Australian outback. On my way to Depot Glen, I lost my exhaust due to the fact there wasn't enough clearance on the vehicle. I was just a few days out of Melbourne on a 2-month journey to follow in the steps of the Burke and Wills expedition, and things weren't working out as I had expected. Following the rush to the Albert goldfields at Milparinka, gold was also found near Tibooburra in 1880. To the first settlers, the area was originally known as the Granites, but in 1881 a town was laid out and renamed Tibooburra, which was the Aboriginal name meaning heaps of boulders. In 1887 it was reported there were 19 gold machines at work. After heavy rain, gold was sometimes found exposed in the streets, which would have made the population of just over 200 residents very happy. By the turn of the 20th century, the gold mining activity had slowed, and the pastoral industry started to grow. During the 1980s, the mainstay of Tibooburra was sheep stations that were large in area due to the limited stock they could carry per acre. The main street caters for the population adequately, with 2 pubs and a couple of petrol stations, which I hoped had resident mechanics, a service of which I was in dire need of. By the time I arrived in Tibooburra, its population had declined to less than 150, many employed in the growing tourist industry. Back in Tibooburra now, and as you can tell by the underneath of the car, there are lots of problems with the exhaust. Blake here is helping me fix it. What we're doing, we're taking the whole muffler out, doing a pipe straight through. At this particular spot, which is Cameron's Corner, and I haven't lost much weight, or gained weight for that matter, but I can still sit on 3 states at the same time.